They say silence is golden. In this house, silence is a weapon. I've spent 5 years perfecting the art of being invisible while standing in plain sight. I was the ghost wife, the quiet shadow behind the roar of the Volkov syndicate. I knew which ties Kaelen liked, which senators needed a gift to look the other way, and exactly how many seconds it took for a man to break under pressure. I never thought the person breaking would be him. Kaelen entered the room like he owned the air we breathed. He always did. He smelled of expensive tobacco and a perfume that wasn't mine. It was floral, cloying and cheap, the scent of Alara Vance. He didn't look at me. He never does first. He went straight to the bar, the ice clinking against the crystal with a rhythmic, violent snap. "You're still up," he said. It wasn't a question. It was an accusation. "The rain was loud," I replied. My voice was a flat line. No emotion, no ripple. Kaelen turned, leaning against the mahogany bar. He looked handsome in the way a predator does before the strike. But there was a new twitch in his jaw, an arrogance that had finally rotted into something reckless. "Good," he said, taking a slow sip. "Because what I have to say requires you to be wide awake. I'm tired of the pretenses, Vespera. I'm tired of this clinical arrangement we call a marriage." I watched him. I didn't blink. I had seen this coming for months. In the way his phone stayed face down, in the way he stopped asking for my advice on the shipping manifests. He thought he was being subtle. He didn't realize that I am the one who taught him the meaning of the word. "You found someone else," I said. It wasn't a guess. Kaelen paused, his glass halfway to his lips. A smirk pulled at the corner of his mouth. He liked that he had stunned me. He wanted the drama. He wanted me to throw the glass. He wanted to feel the power of shattering a woman who seemed unbreakable. "Her name is Alara," he said, his voice dropping into a tone he usually reserved for his favorite horses. "She's everything you aren't. She's soft. She's warm. And most importantly, she loves me for the man I am, not the empire I sit on." He set a thick envelope on the beige marble island. The sound was like a gunshot in the quiet room. "Those are the papers. I've been generous. You get the villa in France and a monthly stipend. That will keep you in silk for the rest of your life. All you have to do is sign, walk out, and never look back." He stepped closer, invading my space, his shadow swallowing mine against the window. "I expect you to be out by morning. Don't make this ugly, Vespera. Don't beg. It would be beneath us both." Beg. He actually used the word. He thought my heart was a glass ornament he could drop just to see it shimmer as it broke. He didn't know that my heart had turned to stone the day I realized what kind of man he truly was. I looked at the envelope. Then I looked him in the eye. "Begging requires a loss, Kaelen," I whispered. "But you can't lose something you never truly valued." Kaelen thinks power is a throne you sit on. He thinks it's the number of men who stand outside your door with guns. He's a child playing with fire, never realizing who built the fireplace. He wants soft. He wants warm. He wants a woman who will look at him and see a king, because he's too weak to face the fact that he's just a middleman for a legacy he didn't earn. I didn't reach for the jewelry he'd bought me over the years. I didn't reach for the deed to the villa in France. My hand found the one thing in this room that actually had a pulse. A small weathered book bound in black calfskin. The Black Ledger. I walked back to the island and placed it directly on top of his divorce papers. The contrast was striking, the white of the legal exit, and the black of his entire world. Kaelen frowned, his eyes darting to the book. "What is that, a diary? If you're going to threaten to publish your memoirs, Vespera, don't bother. My lawyers will have the book burned before the ink dries." I let out a soft, dry laugh. It was the first time I'd laughed in years. It sounded like glass breaking under a boot. "A diary?" "No, Kaelen. This is the blueprint," I said, my voice as cold as the ice in his glass. "Every bribe paid to Commissioner Reed is in here. Every shipment that went through Dock 14 without a customs stamp. The names of the judges who took your father's money, and the bank account numbers for the offshore shells. I created to keep you out of a federal cell." Kaelen's face didn't pale immediately. It took a moment. The arrogance was a thick mask, and it had to crack before it could fall. "You're lying," he spat, though his hand trembled slightly as he reached for the book. You don't have that kind of access. You're a wife. You're a socialite. You spend your days at the gallery and your nights at my side. I spent my days fixing your mistakes, I countered, stepping closer until the scent of Ilara's cloying perfume on him made my stomach turn. Who do you think convinced the Morettis not to go to war when you lost that shipment in June? Who do you think balanced the ledgers when you spent $3 million on a whim in Vegas? It wasn't your advisors. It was the woman you think is too clinical to love. I leaned back, crossing my arms. That will be your chief of security. Or perhaps your lawyer. It seems a technical glitch. Just release the first 3 pages of that book to the district attorney's anonymous tip line. Kaelen lunged for the phone, his face turning a dark, bruised purple. What did you do? He roared. I watched him scramble. The king was suddenly a frantic animal. He looked at the phone, then at me, then at the black book. For the first time in 5 years, he was seeing me, not as a trophy, not as a piece of furniture, but as the person who held the shears to his life's thread. I didn't do anything, Kaelen, I said calmly. I simply stopped protecting you. You said I was no longer required. I'm just following your lead. He grabbed my arm, his grip bruising. Cancel it. Call whoever you have to call and stop the upload. I looked down at his hand on my skin as if it were an insect. The upload is tied to my heartbeat and a daily password, Kaelen. If I don't check in, the rest of the book goes public. If I'm gone, the book goes public. And if you don't let go of my arm in the next 3 seconds, page 4 goes live. That's the page with your signature on the construction fraud. He recoiled as if I'd burned him. He looked at the divorce papers, then at me, the realization finally sinking in. He hadn't just handed me a settlement. He had handed me the keys to his cage. There is a specific sound a man makes when he realizes the ground beneath him is actually a trapdoor. It's not a scream. It's a sharp, jagged intake of breath, the sound of oxygen leaving a room that's about to burn. Kaelen looked at the divorce papers I had signed. He looked at the black ledger. He was trying to calculate a way out, but he was a man who only knew how to add with bullets. I was the one who knew the calculus of power. I'll fix this, Kaelen hissed, his voice cracking. I'll call Dante Moretti. We have a treaty. He won't let the DA move on one of our own. He knows if I go down, the whole city feels the tremor. I picked up my small clutch bag, checking my reflection in the darkened window. I looked radiant. The pale beige of my dress made me look like a statue, beautiful, cold, and eternal. Dante Moretti isn't coming to save you. Kaelen, I said, snapping the bag shut. The click was final. In fact, I'd be surprised if he even picks up your call. Kaelen stopped. He turned to me, his eyes bloodshot. What are you talking about? Dante owes me. I gave him the shipping routes in the east. No, I corrected him, walking toward the door with slow, rhythmic steps. I gave him those routes as a down payment. Kaelen lunged toward me, but he stopped at the threshold of the living room. He saw something on his phone that made him drop it. The screen cracked against the marble. You told me Ilara was pregnant, he whispered, his voice barely audible over the rain. You said I was finally getting an heir. That she was the one who could give me what you wouldn't. I paused at the elevator, one hand on the sensor to hold the door. I turned back to look at him one last time. The man I had shared a bed with for half a decade looked like a stranger. I never said she was pregnant with your child. Kaelen, I said, a small, genuine smile finally touching my lips. I said she was carrying an heir. But Ilara Vance isn't a socialite from the north. Sighed. She's Dante Moretti's youngest sister, and the child she's carrying? It's a Moretti, through and through. The look on his face was worth every second of the last 5 years. He thought he was replacing a clinical wife with a soft lover. He didn't realize he was being invited to his own funeral. Ilara didn't love him. She was the bait. And he, in his infinite arrogance, had swallowed the hook, the line, and the sinker. I stepped into the elevator. The police will be here in 58 minutes. Kaelen, I said as the doors began to slide shut. The front door is unlocked. I'd suggest you don't spend that time looking for the ledger. I took the real one out of the safe 3 months ago. The one on the table? It's full of blank pages and a single note for the detectives. Vespera! He roared, finding his voice too late. He scrambled toward the elevator, but the silver doors met in the middle, sealing him in his glass tomb. He thought I'd beg. He thought I'd weep at the feet of the great Kaelen Volkov. But as the elevator hit the lobby, I didn't feel like a woman who had lost a husband. I felt like a queen who had finally cleared the board. "Is it done?" Dante asks, his voice a low rumble. Vespera slides into the leather seat, the scent of rain and freedom filling the car. She looks up at the penthouse floor, where the lights are starting to flicker and die. "It's just beginning," she says.